So, my first point tonight is called the math. And basically, the process that I went through this week was that last week I promised you guys that I was going to do some of the math to get the 5 atoms that are involved in the DNA strand and figure out their natural resonant frequency. So at first, I started Googling what is the formula for a resonant frequency of something. I found that formula. Um, and for a circuit to calculate, like an electronic circuit, it's pretty darn easy to find the resonant frequency of the circuit. However, it gets more complicated as things have more complex of a shape, right? So there is a pretty simple formula for the resonant frequency of a pipe, like um, for example, in your wind chimes, right? We could easily do the math to figure out what would be the length of the pipe in order to produce this note or this frequency. That's pretty easy. But then when you start getting into like the wine glass, how do we calculate the resonant frequency of a wine glass? Because we know those can be shattered with their resonant frequency. Well, that's where it starts getting into calculus and tangents and basically because you need to kind of know the shape and the volume of the object. So when it got into transferring that formula into the DNA strand, it was like, whoa, this is some heavy math, but I was willing to do it. And so I started going about doing the math, blah, 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 writing my calculations, my square root of the stuff. That's part of the formula. 1/2 times pi times the square root of basically a couple things. And I was like, oh, it's lunchtime. Let me just do some Googling. And I came across this guy named Mark John. And I love Mark John because, as I put right here, he has the same conclusions as me, but he already did it, which is awesome. And so not only has he found the resonant frequencies of those 5 atoms, he's done the whole entire periodic table pretty much. And how he did it was he basically these elements, whenever they are brought to a high energy state, and then they're allowed to like go back down to their restful energy atomic state, they produce a color, which then produces a wavelength. Follow me here, right? Because colors are waves as well. And so what he then did is use the formula to find frequency from wavelength. And then he was able to find the now there's not one specific frequency of each of the elements. So I'd like to say that just because I was thinking about actually pi the other day, right? It's not 3. Pi is not 3. It's not even 3.14. It's 3.145, blah, 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 right? And we see this in nature too. So there's always like an aspect that doesn't calculate pretty, right? There's not always one finite number representing something. And I think that's really important because it gets into sort of the philosophy of like fractals and chaos theory and string theory. And a lot of the quantum level is that we as humans want it to all be rationalized into a perfect box, but it's not. It's not in a perfect box. And so whenever Mark John discovered these frequencies for the elements, there's not just one number, right? There is a range. So I have included in the description for tonight's episode the link to Mark John's webpage. So everybody just love him, give him so much love. Tell him I said thanks. We all said thanks. And here is like what you'll see when you go to the webpage. And this is under a section called periodic table. So here is explore the color and sound of each element as in the periodic table. So he's got that. You can basically click on them. So here's an example of hydrogen. And so the angstrom is the wavelength, right? That's like what he's measuring wavelength in, that unit. And then he's rounded the nanometer. So once again, we have probably a little bit of margin of error there in the rounding. And also that I'm sure some of these numbers aren't exactly 0.00. So, but what we are getting that's beautiful is a range for each element. So, as you can see, these are the colors that are produced whenever it is. He basically explains it on his webpage like really solidly how he's going about finding this information. But you can see that it starts at 207.73 hertz and it goes all the way up to 343.39. Now, to the right of the hertz, he's got what note that is closest to, and I believe he's tuning with a whole tone scale. However, I kind of disregard the note category and then the following hertz to the right of it because I'd rather have the closer frequency. I don't really need I don't need an approximate note here, per se. But if you're interested in what note it pretty much corresponds to, like even that first one's super close. It's 0.03 difference between the G sharp 3. What he means by that, and I'll show you guys on my keyboard real quick. I think we might have gone over this when he was putting the numbers after those notes. Middle C on the piano, which just Google it if you want to know which one middle C is considered C4. And why it's C4 is it's the fourth octave of the piano. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I go upwards in pitch to the next C, that's C5. Up another octave, C6, C7, C8. So that's what he means by those. And I would like to point out that he did the exact same thing that I was doing and basically divided by 2 a bunch until he got into the audible spectrum. And he sort of, I'm not very clear on why he decided this particular octave when he was dividing by 2, because obviously we could multiply 207. We'd still be in the audible range with like 414. Wow, I just did that math fast. But he's decided on these particular octaves. But as you know, the nature of sound, there are corresponding octaves above and I'm pretty sure below as well. So yeah, just some numbers for you. I'm just going to read them off really quickly. Hydrogen, we talked about the range of oxygen is 322 to 696. Nitrogen, 365 to 682. Carbon, 376 to 695. And phosphorus, these are the 5 elements of the DNA strand, 209 to 297. Now, what is interesting to me about this is, first of all, that his math checks out. Because as I spoke of last week, there is the for sure frequency of hydrogen called the hydrogen line. And whenever I took that frequency and divided by 2 to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, I definitely got in the range of his math. It was dead in the middle of the range. What's also interesting to me about these numbers and this particular kind of region that all of this is falling in with his math is that if you'll remember the solfeggio that we talked about, and everybody's big on like the 528 hertz and the healing solfeggio notes, that is definitely in this range, okay? And so if I think about basic elements on the earth, like water or air, oxygen, it's interesting that not only are these the 5 elements in our DNA strand, but they are very, very common elements on our planet and in outer space, and they fall right dead in this range. So one conclusion that we can come to is that I think it's pretty safe to say matter, some kind of resonance is going on in this sort of 200 to 900 range. Then, of course, if you double the octaves, you can get into higher frequencies of them. But there's something to say about this range in general, which is actually where our speaking voice lies, is very close to this range. Like right now, I'm speaking kind of around this, I think. Um, so yeah, go check out his webpage because I could spend, the whole entire evening showing you around it and showing his information and his process to you. But the bottom line is that I put on my notes, we're rolling with these numbers because I trust them, done enough calculations to sort out that this is trustworthy. And I think it's a fair foundation for us to use these particular frequencies. So one other thing, oh, I'm really quiet. Interesting. Hopefully it's not too quiet because my meter is looking almost in the red right now. So I don't know. Who knows? This is the hot mess Philosophonics. Didn't even start streaming. I probably won't rebroadcast this one just because it is such a hot mess on the production side. But it's okay. So yeah, let me show you guys one more image. Oh, mostly the keys. Okay, good to know. Okay. Oh, what up, Jamie? All right. So go check it out. Check out Mark John's webpage that I put in the description. And this last image I want to show you. Because me being me, I'm always a little bit doubtful. I'm just like, oh, I want to know this with confidence, right? That whenever we are, okay, I already feel pretty confident about these frequency ranges, for sure. Like, no doubt in my mind about them and how they correspond to the actual atom. I know all the people's right. Like, we're gonna have a Philosophonics party where we just like chat and don't do anything cerebral. We will have a happy hour Philosophonics one time. One time. Okay, so we've talked about this is what's beautiful because you guys are so knowledgeable now. You know about cymatics, you know about the solfeggio, you know all this information because you're all geniuses. And this is something that really, really drives it home for me. So as you can see, there is a water molecule with a big fancy word. I'm not even gonna try and say it, but that's exhibit A, right? That's water molecule. Okay. And then there is exhibit B, the clusters of it. Okay. And then we look further below, there is some cymatics. Then we put that with the carbon and water geometry, and holy cow, do you guys see that it is totally in alignment? Like you could literally put that cluster pattern, or actually probably the real water molecule pattern, on top of that pentagonal cymatic, and it would be the same shape. What the what? Even more beautiful up at the top right, a perfect fifth in cymatics, which you guys know what that is. Then we have the DNA and what the axial view of DNA helix looks like. And does that look familiar to you? Why, yes, it does. It looks like the freaking perfect fifth pattern. What? So at this point, you guys, we'll be on episode 20 next week. And I feel like at this point, there is enough evidence to support that if we mess with these certain frequencies, we are creating these certain patterns. So if you believed it on the woo-woo side, you were ahead of the game. But at this point, I feel like even skeptics can't really deny those correlations right there. and the other mathematical correlations that are happening between matter and sound and our bodies. And that's all. That's all for the chat, you guys, because really, I came here tonight to quickly say there's no denying. And Mark John, he's done the math. I'm going to like hit up Mark John and be like, yo, you want to be homies for life? Maybe we could have him even on the episode. That would be amazing. But yeah, he already has taken a lot of the things that I've been like intuitively thinking and done the math of it, and beautiful. Go to his webpage, check it out. You'll feel smarter for it. So I'm going to play, let me turn the keys up because Shadow Legacy said they're a little quiet. I'm going to play you guys one cover and then we're going to meditate it out. Easy peasy tonight. Easy peasy, my friends. And I love all y'all guys. Wherever you are, wherever you find yourself this Thursday, just breathe. Take a deep, deep belly breath and blow it out. Blow out all the stresses of the day, of the week. Let's do another deep breath. And let it go. We all carry so much around each week. Because of our great love, our desire to help those that we love, to help the world around us, to help ourselves. And just like a beautiful piece of stone chosen by a sculptor, I want you to imagine gently chipping off all those things that you've carried this week. So that your true form can breathe easy, if just for this minute. You can breathe it out into the earth. Let it all go. You did enough. You did your best. And you, my friend, are art. Let yourself be that beautiful sculpture. You have permission